video tutorial, we're going to go over how to create an assessment from scratch. Once you're logged into Buzz in your teacher app, locate the course in which you wish to create the assessment in. Once you locate your course card, please click on the icon for the Buzz editor. Once you enter your course, it may be blank. The first thing that you are going to want to do is bring in your standards. Now, if you look over to the left, you may have a box like this that says Objectives and then Edit. You may also see something like this, where it doesn't look like there's anything to the left, but if you notice there's 3 small symbols. If you click any of these symbols, the box will pop out. Once you're here, you're going to go over to Edit and click, and then you're going to click on Import. This will always default to Common Core state standards. These are not the New York State standards, they are the national standards. To find your New York State standards, please click on this box and go down to New York. In the next box, you're going to select your grade level. And then in the third box, you're going to select your subject. For English and Math, what you will notice is the following. You have 2 selections for Next Generation Standards. Please note that one of these is Learning Standards for Literacy, and then the others are the English Language Arts Learning Standards. The ones you would wish to put into your course is the English Language Arts Learning Standards. So you will click on this box. And if you wish to align them to the standards that are currently in place in New York State, go up one more, and it's going to say New York State P through 12 Common Core Learning Standards. Those are the ones you're also going to choose. Once your boxes are picked, you're going to go over to the bottom right and click OK. You'll notice that all of the standards come in. If you do a long scroll on your screen, at the very bottom will be a Save button. Please click this to save your standards. Now that my standards are in, I'm ready to start creating my assessment. To create an assessment, in the middle of your screen, please go to Add To and click. In Add To, for assessments, it's over to the right at the top of the second column. When you come into the assessment editor, the first thing that you are going to do is label your test. Under Content is where you will place your instructions. If you scroll further down, you will notice that there is an attachment and companion material. This would be for anything that are dealing with reference sheets. In grade 5 math, in science, you may have something that you wish to attach to the entire test that the students are going to use as a reference. If you do this, we advise that you choose the companion material because it comes out in a big box. An attachment is a very small icon that kids tend to miss. You also have the option of turning on the calculator for the entire assessment. Once I have my title and my directions, the next thing I'm going to start doing is building my questions. If you move up to your top, you're going to see you're in the Activity tab right now. We're going to move 2 over to the Questions tab and click. Once I'm in the Questions tab, I'm ready to start building my assessment. To build an assessment from scratch, I'm going to go up to my top here and find the plus sign. Clicking on the plus sign, a template will pop up for me. This will always default to multiple choice, but if you click, you'll have a menu of all these different kinds of questions that you can actually use. Because I'm building an English exam, I'm going to start with a passage. A passage is where I'm going to place my reading passage that the students are going to do. You have two options to do reading passages. You can either type it in by clicking on type something and then start typing your passage. You can also create your own tables. You can also embed a Google Doc if you choose to. I actually have a document that I am going to embed. It's not a Google Doc, but it's a PDF that I've already created of my reading assignment. So I'm going to go over to my embed, which is in my toolbar, second line down, third one in, and I'm going to click. I'm actually going to go to course resource. Once I click on course resource, I'm going to go over to the right and I'm going to click on my little cloud. And I'm going to choose my document just like I would for an email. I'm going to locate my article that I wish to use and attach it. I'm going to click upload. Down here under properties, we usually recommend full width. For the height, we usually recommend about 600. You can change this if you notice that it doesn't come out the way you want it to. Once I'm done, I'm going to click embed. And here's my passage that my students are going to use to take this exam. Because this is a passage, I do have the option of displaying my questions to the right. If you utilize tests from our OHM curriculum, most of our tests show the passage to the right and then the questions next to it. In this case, I am. I'm also going to choose display one question at a time. This means that students only get to see one question and then they have to click on a number to get to the next one. Because this is a passage, I'm not going to link any objectives. Once my passage is embedded and set, I can now go back up to my plus sign and I'm now going to start creating my questions. When I start typing and type something, my toolbar will pop up. If I wish to change anything, to bold it, italicize it, or change my fonts, I can do so. I can even change my font size and the color. I can also, for questions and answers, embed images. I can do a YouTube video, and I can also embed other items as well. As a default, Buzz will give you two answer options. If you need to add more choices, you're simply going to click Add Choice and then type your answer. Again, in my answers, if I need to bold something or change anything, I can just highlight, go to my toolbar, and change my font. I can even change the color of it and bold. Now, for my questions, if I go over to the right, I'm going to see three dots. If I click on these three dots, I have the option to add feedback to every answer. Sometimes this is helpful, especially in math or science, where if you choose to explain why the answer was incorrect and how the students should be able to get the correct answer. The next one is also the toggle lock in position. If you choose in your settings to randomize your answers or randomize your questions and answers, this is helpful if you have answers that are all of the above, none of the above, all of the below, because what happens is when I click this, notice a lock appears. So if I randomize my questions, this answer is always going to stay in this position. To tie my question to my reading passage, so I can make sure if I do randomize, it's always connected, I'm going to scroll down to the box that says Interactions. In Interactions, underneath, notice how it says Include Passage. If I click on this menu, any question number that appears has a passage to it. I simply need to match my question with the passage number. Here as well, because this is a multiple choice question, I can now choose an objective. To attach an objective to a question, I'm going to click Choose Objective. Now, because I have so many in here, I can actually filter if I want to. Once I start typing it in, you'll notice how my options start filtering. You also have the option to be able to start typing the actual objective, and it will pop up as well. So you can choose as many objectives as you wish to tie to the question. If you've made a mistake, you can simply click X and the objective will disappear. If you're using a question that is matching or it's multiple answer, underscore marking partial is sometimes crucial. If you do not mark partial, it means if the student gets one answer incorrect, the rest are all marked incorrect as well. So partial allows the student to know which answers they got correct, which ones they didn't, and also have the ability to get credit for their correct answers. After I've created my first question, I'm then going to go to my second question. For my second question, I might actually have an essay. This is where I can type my essay question. I can even type in a sample answer. Again, because I want to tie this to a specific passage, if I scroll down to Interaction, under Include Passage, when it says None, I can click the number of the passage that I wish to tie it to. Again, I'm going to choose my objectives. Now what you'll notice in the score box for an essay, you can actually judge it by a rubric. If you utilize our test banks, the rubrics are already included. If you wish to create your own rubric, under score, go over to the pencil and click, and the rubric will appear. This is where I can start. To add another column, I'm going to click on the plus sign over here. And then to create another column, again, I'm going to click on the plus sign. Underneath, where it says title, is where I can put the objects that I'm looking at in this section of the rubric. In Buzz, when you create rubrics, it's a little different from other ones. Instead of going from the largest to the smallest, it actually starts at 0 and then goes to the highest. You can also play with your points. So if this section is only worth 5 points, I can put that in there. I can also adjust my points here if I need to, if it's not doing the math that you wish to have it do correctly. To add another row, I'm going to go underneath here and click on this plus sign. My next title will pop up, and then I can fill in again. And again, I can play with my points if I want to play with my points. Once I have my rubric set the way I wish it to be, I can then press save, and it's now attached. Once I have my test exactly as I would like it to be, I can now go to my settings, which is in the top, in between activity and questions. Once I click settings, it'll take me to this menu. Here, if I wish to attach a due date, I can, and I can allow late submissions. If this is a benchmark or a midterm and you're an elementary teacher, we usually advise that you keep the due date off. Number of attempts always defaults to unlimited. You'll want to change this to 1. Questions per page is up to you as a teacher. In this case, I'm going to put 1. Allow, save, and continue we always advise to keep on in case there's a fire drill or something happens. The kids have the ability to save their work and come back to it. For elementary teachers and middle school students, we still probably say require your answers. And I can randomize my question order, and I can randomize my response order. Over here, if I want to play with my grades, I can. The weight in the category, how I want this to be graded, either by points, letter grade, or percentage, and then what period the activity is going into. Notice I'm not going to tie objectives to the whole of the test because I've tied them already to the individual questions. If I am a middle school and high school teacher and I don't want to have to go into Buzz and click and hide things, under visibility and access, this is where I can say the student can't get to it until a specific date and time, or I have to enter a password for them to access the test. Under assessment review, this is where your feedback comes in. If you don't want students to see any feedback whatsoever, this means they wouldn't be able to see what they've got correct and incorrect. I'm going to put never. However, if I do want them to see the question results, I can now change this. I can say after my minimum attempt, which is 1 right now. I can say when answered correctly. I can also say after a specific due date. So this is where if somebody else is giving on a paper, they need more time, I gave it on the computer, I can actually push out the date to when the kids have access to get their grades, and I can define when that is. In this case, I'm going to say after the minimum attempts, students will be able to see their grades. And then you have other options here that you can read through. Display student answers, display the question score, the correct questions, the correct choices, and feedback. Under advanced assessment options is where you'll find your highlighter, your notes, an automatic start if you don't want to do any directions. This is also where your default question score is. So if a majority of my questions are 5, but my essay is worth 10, I'll probably put my default questions at 5, then go back into questions and change my essay score. I'm going to click on Show Highlighter, Show the Answer Eliminator, Allow Student Notes, and allow students to bookmark. Now that I'm all set, I'm now going to press Save. Once I'm back in my editor, and now that I have a test in here, if I want to do a quick hide so the students can't log in and see this test at a time, I can go over to my right and click on my eyeball. Notice once I click my eyeball, a line goes through it, and when I click off, it turns red. To turn the test on then, all I need to do is click on the eyeball again, it turns blue, and students can now see this exam. I can also click on my 3 dots, and if I want to see what this test is going to look like to my students, I can do so by clicking Preview. In Preview, I can press Start. And this is where you're going to notice here's my passage that I put in. That's my PDF. Over here, notice that my answers, answer A is on top. And then I did the display 1 question at a time. So now when I click 2, it's going to take me to my essay question. So instead of having to go down to the bottom to do it, the students are doing it after this. And then there are their notes, the bookmark, highlighter, and the answer eliminator. This was how to create an assessment from scratch.